Hello everyone, this is Gilbert Jalad. I'm talking to you from CPLSPA downtown Orlando. This is Tufts on Tax, where all your tax issues and questions are answered right here with Mr. T. Scott Tufts, the master and the expert when it comes to taxes and tax laws. And today you can actually call him at 877-647-7887. Again, 877-647-7887. Or you can email him at any time at stufts@cplspa.com. That's stufts@cplspa.com. Hello, Scott. How are you today?
Hey, good to be with you.
Good to be with you, too. And again, we have a new topic today. We're talking about shell companies. So what are shell companies?
So,
explain.
All right. So when we talk about shell companies in our business and in taxes, we want to talk about companies that might be formed under state law, right? They might be official entities, but the way they are operating is viewed by tax authorities, let's say, as not being proper, being part of a scheme or whatnot, and therefore they can be essentially disavowed because they're fake, viewed from a tax concern as being fake. So
I was going to ask you about my next question. What has that got to do with taxes?
So the idea being that what we're trying to impress on our audience is the idea that you can structure something and have your state law things done, but it's got to have substance. It's got to have economic substance. It's got to have some modicum of attention to details and operate in a serious way or in a deliberate way, bank accounts, but also with what you would accustom to running a business or operating a business or whatnot.
So what's the concern here?
So the concern would be that has there been a scheme or structure used to defraud the government or hurt the government from taxes? So it would be an issue like that.
Oh, wow. So, I mean, how do we recognize them or spot them, these particular companies?
So we would spot the companies by really in the eyes of the beholder, and what we would do there is we would be trying to look at the idea of how they're operating and have they created what is perceived by government authorities as a scheme to create things that are not resulting in a fair amount of tax being paid by what would otherwise be possible. So, and this is kind of what we pay attention to when we look at a bigger picture. Some of the most complex structures are so complex that they're intended that way, and the government can come in from a big picture view and say, at the end of the day, all you've done here is created all of these things, and it's part of a scheme.
Is there any examples that we can
talk about? What got me thinking about this is that within the past 2 weeks, there has been an indictment that has come out against an attorney in Dallas, Texas, Joseph Garza. And what caught our eye is that the indictment has been unsealed, and it says the following, and this is most interesting to me. It says that, and I'm reading right from the indictment, so I want to get it accurate.
Okay.
It says that at the direction of Garza and others, clients, mainly high net worth business owners, used a tax shelter to create a circular flow of funds to illegally reduce paying taxes. To effect the circular flow of funds, Garza and others created shell companies, including a shell services company and a shell investments company. The only purpose of the services and investments companies was to fraudulently move money, concealing the real purpose of the movement before returning the funds to the clients untaxed for their own personal use. Garza and others further concealed the circular flow of funds by manufacturing fake invoices for false business expenses, commissioning fake business valuation reports, and creating sham contractual agreements. Garza directed clients to use hand-picked CPAs and other tax professionals who aided and assisted Garza in the scheme by preparing and filing false and fraudulent tax returns for one, the operating business that originally generated the business income, 2, the Shell Services Company, 3, the Shell Investments Company, and 4, the client's individual income tax return. This resulted in approximately $1 billion in unreported income and over $200 million in loss to the United States Treasury in the form of unpaid taxes. Garza and others unlawfully and unjustly enriched themselves through fees and other compensation earned by promoting the shelter, preparing false tax returns, and providing advice and assistance to the clients who participated in the tax shelter. So that comes right from the indictment dated October 18th, 2022. So how does that read to you when you hear all that?
I was actually going to ask, before you asked me, I mean, what can we learn from this? What can we tell the audience to avoid? And I know,
Yeah, so we come back to this idea that if you go see a professional and what they tell you seems too good to be true, that's kind of a warning light, right?
Okay, of course. You raise a flag right there.
If you just kind of leave there saying, this just sounds too good to be true, that's kind of one expression that our policymakers and our tax people, the IRS and whatnot, would say is something that you should know should cause some concern. The other feature that can happen is if you saw the terms used, hand-picked CPAs. If we're structuring something as tax professionals and we have to not have independence to what we're doing or transparency, that can be a problem. So if there are acts of concealment that seem to you to be counter to the idea that if you're not doing anything improper, there would be nothing to hide kind of idea. As far as the IRS, I mean, your taxes shouldn't be out in the open and whatnot as such, but as to your arrangements with the government and working with them on getting to the your taxes in a proper place and whatnot, then that would be the goal on that.
So we go back to first, how to spot them, and you kind of mentioned a little bit about this, and how to avoid this. And
yeah, so I think the key there also is also look at the arrangements that are being made. For example, if there's a thin line if someone says, I've just had this big sale of a company and I've created a lot of income, and they go to a tax professional and say, I'd like to avoid paying tax on it. I think that's starting off in a challenging position, because the tax law would look at more of the ability to tax the transactions as you pursue them. It's not so much that they are tax driven. Now, there are some exceptions to that insofar as if you have a sale of a real estate and you wish to defer the gain, you can engage in a rollover transaction. There's also types of behavior that reward certain behavior or you can benefit from. For example, we mentioned in a prior podcast that the new laws that are out now encourage spending that is climate sensitive or that has credits that are offered to encourage folks to buy, let's say, an electric car manufactured in the United States.
Correct.
So these are the kinds of things that are behaviors that are encouraged, so therefore there's a tax benefit to them. But it might be a slight difference between that and coldly looking to avoid paying a tax by something that is constructed artificially, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and what, like you said earlier, it's too good to be true.
Correct.
Now, going back to this example that you showed us from this 2 weeks Dallas indictment, what did Mr. Garza do wrong? Now, we're not, of course, he's still innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
But what mistake did he do in your mind that caused him to fall into this?
Well, a couple things that are interesting to me, and I'm reading off the press release from the Department of Justice out of the Northern District of Texas.
Okay.
And one of the things that struck me was that now they've indicted him on 18 counts of wire fraud, 1 count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and 22 counts of aiding and assisting in the preparation of fraudulent income tax returns. Now,
wow.
what got me was that the way they describe this, it says these shell companies purported to provide services to clients' businesses or serve as family investment vehicles, but actually had no legitimate purpose other than to move money.
Oh, wow.
Mr. Garza and others allegedly created sham operating agreements. We've talked about operating agreements.
Correct.
Sham service agreements, phony invoices,
Oh, wow.
and false private annuity agreements designed to give the companies the appearance of legitimacy and conceal the scheme from the IRS. And then as part of this, and this kind of gets to our forms, they say in the press release, Mr. Garza and others then allegedly assisted clients in the preparation of filing fraudulent tax returns, including IRS Forms 1120, 1120S, falsely deducting business expenses for services that were never performed, IRS Forms 1065, we've talked about that one, that's
Yes.
the partnership return
Exactly.
for service companies, falsely reporting gross receipts for the payments that were not earned, and so forth and so on, and down to the Forms 1040X. He allegedly charged clients a percentage of the predetermined amount of money that they had chosen to shelter from taxes.
God,
so that
the
last
man
piece,
is smothered.
So that
with all
well,
this
but
stuff.
the piece there, if you heard what I said, it sounds like what they're alleging he did was that he charged a percentage of the savings. So, for example, I come to you with X amount of money, I take a cut of that money, and we shelter it, meaning that we're going to keep it from paying tax, and we're going to flush it through all this thing, and when it comes out clean, you don't have to pay tax on it.
Wow.
Now, all these are just allegations, obviously, innocent until proven guilty, and they emphasize that in the press release.
Yes,
so we want to be respectful of that. Mr. Garza is also identified in the press release of being 79. I believe he's been an attorney, tax attorney for many, many years.
Oh, wow.
So this isn't just something that is by some person that whatever, and it's all over the tax news, if you will, and that was another reason I wanted to bring it forward.
It's a hot topic.
Yeah, and so in our what we want folks to do, we've spent a lot of time on the podcast talking about getting to the professionals. We haven't said, even with those professionals, certainly listen to what they're saying, but look for things that if it's too good to be true, if it's an actual tax savings concept or situation, do some thinking. And if you get to a situation where you need a second opinion, right? Think of this almost like, in healthcare, if someone said, hey, do this, and you said, I just don't feel comfortable, certainly nothing wrong with getting a second opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Because like you said, in healthcare, they want you to do a surgery or do something.
Sure.
You're not comfortable. You want a second opinion, a third opinion sometimes.
Correct.
And that's kind of scary when you're coming to an expert and he's supposed to help you.
Right.
And then he's the one that gets you in trouble.
Right. Well, I think we ask of our clients the same thing they ask of us in a way, right?
Of course, yeah.
So I think the concept there is us attorneys need to remember that our role is to advise clients, whether it's what they want to hear or not sometimes, correct?
Correct, absolutely.
Right. So we have to counsel, not just advise in a way that tries to achieve an objective that they may have.
Yeah, and do your research and follow your gut. If you feel something raising a flag, do some research, like you said, a second opinion. Well, you heard him, folks. If you have any question about that, you can call Mr. T. Scott Tufts at 877-647-7887. Again, that number is at 877-647-7887. You'll find it on the YouTube banner on the bottom of the screen. Or you can email him also at stufts@cplspa.com. That's stufts@cplspa.com. And we'll see you next time with another form and another tax issue. Thank you and have a wonderful day.